Hello, welcome to my studio. I am so glad you are here today. So today I'm going to be trying out some new to me watercolor paper. I want to see what it does. So what do I have? I've got my things that I use often with watercolor. I've got my Stabilo all pencils. I have, get this, make a little room. This paint is no longer available. It was Paper Fashion. I believe it's a Prima product, but I can't swear to it. It was made by American Crafts, but it was their gold, metallics, and some other shimmery kind of colors. So I've got that because I do use this. I've got some Prismacolor. These are watercolor pencils. So where I want to see how they do. I don't think I've used them yet on a video, but I do use them. I have my Daniel Smith watercolors ready to go. I've got my spray bottle of water, and I've got some rinsing water for my brushes, and this is the product. Now I realize if it's in frame at all, it's barely in frame, but this is the Amazon Basic watercolor book. This is 11 by 14. I am filming this in June of 2022, and this pad right now on Amazon is going for $14.35, and then you're going to have tax, shipping, whatever. But it's 30 sheets and it's 140 pound, which is as light as I care to go usually with watercolor. Now, it doesn't say anywhere on the packaging, front or back, that or what it's made of. This is just what I'm going to attach the paper down to. But if a watercolor paper is cotton, even if it's partially cotton, they normally brag about it on the packaging. 30% cotton, 100% cotton rag, whatever. It has nothing like that. So I can only assume there was nothing in the description to tell me, but I would have to assume then the only other product it would be is a cellulose-based product, which is a wood pulp product. Nothing wrong with that. Just depends on what you want to use it for. So let's open it up and see what we've got. Now, they call it a watercolor book. I'm not sure why, because it looks to me more like what I would call a pad of paper. So we're going to just take a look. It came well packaged and the corners are not mashed, which is great. That is something I look for when I order any kind of paper. And honestly, so far from Amazon, I've been well pleased with the quality of the packaging and what shape it's come in. So here is our 11 by 14 watercolor book, they call it. But yeah, it's just a tablet, nothing wrong with that. But it's got a glued, I've got a little wire in the way. It's got a glued end, but the rest of the pages are loose, so it's not glued all the way around. And you know, I don't remember if this was advertised as hot press or cold press. It's not as smooth as hot press. Hot press is almost as smooth as my Formica top desk, but it is not anywhere near what you expect for some texture in a cold press. So it is what it is. Let's take a look. 140 pound, I totally believe it. So I'm just going to tear out this top sheet and we're going to just run it through some paces. So let's see what we can do. Tears, pretty easy. Wouldn't mind if it tore just a little bit easier. So Amazon Basics watercolor, the 11 by 14 now, and it's 30 sheets. If you find this at a cheaper price, take a look at the size, because they also sell it one size smaller. I want to say maybe it is, I don't want to say, I'm not sure. They do have one size smaller. It came in two choices and I took the bigger of the two. So what I'm going to do, because I want to make it manageable and I want to give it the fairest chance that I can, I'm going to be cutting the paper in half and then I'm going to be mounting it. Because when you're using watercolor, you are using a lot of water, and that can make even the best paper, and I'm talking about arches, can want to buckle or warp a little bit, just depending on how much paper you're using. All right, let's double check the size. So I am at 14 inches. So I'm going to bring this to 7, working in a small space. Not complaining, that's just the way it is. So here's 7, and doesn't look straight to me. Yeah, it could just be my eyes. Here we go, 1, 2, 3, go. And there is our 7. Now, my cardboard that I want to put this on is also the same width. So I'm just going to take an inch off. So 11, 10. I'm just thinking, what would I use that for? I'm going to take it down 2 inches because then I can make a bookmark or a tag or something out of that. So I'm taking it down another 2 inches. One of the things I did want to test was how it would work on my trimmer, and it works just fine. So we are at 11. So we're going to take it down to 9. And that way, like I said, I could use it for a bookmark or a tag or something else, because I'm going to use this paper. Not exactly sure for what yet. That's going to be decided on the paper itself, but I will use this paper. Okay, we're done with the trimmer. I've got 2 sheets here, and I'm just going to mount them on some cardboard, chipboard, gray board, whatever you want to call it, because again, I don't want to be wrestling with it because it wants to warp. I'm looking to see if one side is shinier than the other. No. This side could be my imagination, but this side feels just a little bumpier, so I'm going to put that up. Anyway, what was I saying? I don't remember. It must have been a lie. I want this paper to have as fair of a chance as I can give it, but I also want to know what I can and cannot do with it. I may end up using this with acrylics. I may end up using this for ephemera only. I may end up using it as backing. I mean, it's never going to go to waste. But I don't plan to use this for fine art, just because, again, that's not fair to try to use a craft grade product for fine art. Maybe you can do it. I wouldn't feel comfortable. If I'm going to work that hard, I want to have the best quality that I can do. So there's one. I'm going to put down the other one. Let me know if any of you have tried this paper. I would really, really like to know. What did you think of it? How did it seem? One thing I like, can you see how the edge is kind of deckly from cutting it? I like that. I like when paper leaves that kind of a, I don't know, almost like a fabric feel to the edge that just, I don't know, kind of an organic feel to it. And I like that. So let me know in the comments, please. And while you're thinking about that, go ahead and hit the like and consider please subscribing to my channel. I am a new YouTuber, and so YouTube creator. And so when you do leave comments, when you do leave likes or dislikes, it shows engagement and it helps for YouTube to say, well, you know, she's got something that people are looking at, spending some time with it, and they'll promote it for me. So that's a big help. All right, so I've got 2 pages completely ready to go. I'm just going to set one aside, and we're going to get started on this. And I think I'm going to get started right off with my Daniel Smith watercolors. And let's just put it through some paces. So I'm going to activate. I want to use my products just the way I would normally use them. So I'm activating my paints. It's not that I'm not willing to clean my paint palette. It's just that the paints that are left behind are still good. So there's no reason to waste it. I'm going to get myself a nice round brush. Let's go with, this one is a Simply Simmons, and it is in it's a 1/2 square. So we'll start with that. I'm wetting my brush, dabbing it off, and I'm just going to go into this color. This is Quinacridone Rose, and I'm just going to lay some color on. And my brush is dry, so that's pretty normal. There we go. And just put some color on. Okay, I like it. I'm going to put some water on top of it, just plain water. See what that does. Paint is moving, and it's moving nice. So it's not over absorbent, where I would feel like if I don't work fast, I'm just going to be staining the paper because it's so absorbent. You'll get that kind of a feel from something like cardstock. But I like that. Okay, let's take another color, and this is Shadow Violet. And I'm going to just put this on. But I'm going to go ahead, and I know this is quite a granulating color, and it can kind of divide out into more than one color, which is a cool effect, especially when you're doing things like water or sky or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put some more water on here, because if you want that kind of granulation, it takes water. So we're going to see what that does. This is drying nice. I'm okay with that. Let's put some water on. And I'm just doing a rectangle of water. I don't want it to be a puddle, but just a nice shine. And then I'm going into my phthalo blue, which I know is a color that likes to spread and move. And there it goes. Lots of spreading and moving. So that's great. And it is a blossom that is not just hiding in little creaks and cracks. It's very feathered and soft around the edges, and I like that. Some watercolor papers, it's as if the color is simply following little cracks or little fibers, and so you get, I don't know, not this organic, smooth little blossoms. Now, this color, which I'm using, which is Cascade Green, is another color that likes to blossom. Now, it's already drying, which at this pace, it's normal. It's normal. There's more water on the edges, and that's normal. So that kind of blossoming and flowering effect I like. I'm going to go back up to where I used this Shadow Violet. I don't know if you can see, but I'm going to bring it up, hoping you can. If you look in there, you can see where it has divided out into some colors. You can see some blue. You can see some kind of a Payne's gray. You can see some kind of a purpley color. That's really good. I like that it tells me that the pigments aren't just sinking right in, but they're staying on top and allowing that granulation to happen. Now, granulation is not gritty, but if you're using a gritty paint, the paper can't help you with that. That's just what you're using. If you're using a dye-based, these are pigment-based. If you're using a dye-based watercolor, then you're just going to have an all-over smooth color. And that would be like Prang, that kind, which we've used that in some of my videos. If you are new to watercolor or you want to learn more about watercolor, I've got a couple of beginner watercolor videos out there, and I plan to do some more. So I put some water on there, and I'm going to try a little bit of blending. So I'm going to add this yellow, and this is cadmium yellow hue. So that just means it doesn't really have cadmium in it, which is a poison. It's going to have some dye in it, which is fine. Whenever a color says hue, that's what that normally means. So I put that. Now I'm going to go back to that phthalo blue and see if I can blend this up into a green. And yes, I'm getting a real pretty green in there. Phthalo blue is strong. That is a strong pigment. So the fact that the blue took over the yellow, that's not a surprise to me. But I'm going to add just a little more yellow. And it's just a really nice, kind of a spring green. But again, the paper didn't absorb so quickly that I couldn't blend a color. So that's really a positive thing to me. All right, so what else can we do? Well, let's just try a floral and just kind of see how that feels. So just a fantasy flower, nothing that is going to be particularly artistic. I'm just gonna make a little bit of a flower feel. Okay, I'm gonna get a little darker shade. And I'm going right on top of the paint that I already put and just trying to kind of darken up the middle a little bit, or the petals where they would be less light. This is operating like any good quality cellulose paper. Paper I think about is Strathmore 400, which I use a lot. Canson XL, great paper. Nothing wrong with it. These are more student grade rather than necessarily professional grade, but I use them and I like them. So again, nothing wrong with that. Going back into that first color, which is a rhodonite, and now I'm just going to add a little in between. Add a few more petals. I'm not really working on trying to produce a beautiful floral, obviously, but again, it is doing exactly what I would expect a good cellulose paper to do. And price-wise, this is less expensive than the other two that I mentioned. And like I said, I use those. I like those. No, I think this is good paper. If you like a real textured paper, no, your Canson and your Strathmore 400 is going to give you more texture, definitely more texture. But I'm wondering about marker. I rarely use marker other than my blacks, inks, and things, but yeah, I'm not a good judge, but one of the things about markers is that when it's a smoother paper, you don't wreck the nibs quite as quickly. So I'm going to show you again a little bit closer. The rose, more divided up in there, which is a really good sign to me that, again, it didn't all just sink in, but the pigments were able to sit on top. And these stayed in kind of a blossomy, feathery, light edge, not like veins. The color blending, fine. This, fine. I like it. I'm okay with this paper. I am not disappointed at all. Not at all. And there's been very minimal buckling or bowing. All right, let's try another product. Thank you, Daniel Smith. That was great. Let's see what these Stabilos do. And again, if you've been with my channel before, you know I like to use these. I think they're a lot of fun. So I'm just going to lay some pigment here and there and not really thinking strongly about what I'm doing, but I am trying to pick colors that as they blend, they're not just going to turn into mud. So I'm just putting this in. We'll add a little yellow. And let's see what we get. Same brush. I'm rinsing it in the second rinse so it's nice and clear. And you do need just a little more water when you're activating this type of a product. These have not obviously sat on here a long time, and they're moving great. And I am not, with the amount of scrubbing that I've done, I'm not getting where the paper wants to pill up, which is great. Let's go to another color. This one is sticking a little bit more, but the fact that some crayons act one way, it can be the pigment. That's okay. And the last one we've got is the yellow. All right, then let's move some of these together. Can you see how the red is moving and the orange? They're blending there. And again, it didn't sink in so far that the colors couldn't blend, which is great. Got some orange over here. Let's bring it out. I think the colors look vibrant. I don't feel like they're dulling down. My Daniel Smiths are not dulling down as it dries. And now I'm just going over the whole thing just to see. And the paper is not pilling up on me. A little bit, I'm getting a little bit, and I'm not even sure if this is the paper or if it's the pigment. It's the paper. So I'm getting a little bit of pilling on that orange. Not a lot. Not a lot. Yep. Okay, so I would be very comfortable to use my Stabilo on there. And I'm going to just try something else. I want to use a darker color. I'm going to use this blue. And I'm giving this some push. And now I want to see how this will move. It's moving, but you can obviously still see the zigzag, which is typical of this color and my experience with it. And so far, I'm not pilling up the paper yet. And I've given this a good amount of water and a good amount of scrubbing. But I think that is going to just always have that zigzag in there. And that's okay, but it's good to know. Okay, so what is your first impression? Right now, I am very impressed. I am not getting, I'm a little bit of bowing, but not bad. Not bad at all. Okay. All right, we've got another one. Let's give it a go. I'm going to set this one aside, but we'll bring it back. Okay. Now, the first thing I want to do, use my mister. And I'm just going to mist across the top. I am not misting the whole thing, but I want to see how it can handle that much water. And I'm going to go ahead. Well, I haven't activated these yet. When you're using metallics or these kind of shimmer colors, they take more activation. So I'm going to go ahead and activate. We can still test them out, just not right this minute. But I'm going to get those activating. And I'm going to go back to the Daniel Smith and just put some color on here and see how the paper reacts if I'm going to get more bowing, more buckling, because it will definitely show up. So this is Amethyst Genuine, which is another very heavily granulating color. And I'm going to put a couple of rows of that in. I'm going to use some of this Moon Glow, which Daniel Smith is known for this color and its granulation and how it separates out. And it is just beautiful. But I'm not getting any more bowing than I've seen. Absolutely not. And I'm getting the same with the blossoming, the same soft blossoms that I like. I'm not getting the things that look like strange veins. So this is great. And let's hit this again and really put it to the test. And I'm happy with this. I think it's good. Okay, let's try some watercolor pencils. Now, these are my Prismacolor Premier 36 colors, and I did run them through the sharpener so that you wouldn't be putting up with me having to sharpen some pencils. But let's just see how this will operate. So I'm gonna take a green, and this is perfectly dry, and I'm going to give it a little bit of, again, a floral, put some leaf in, and then I'm going to give it some pink, and another pink, and this is called terracotta. It almost looks like a sepia. And let's see what this does. Get some clean water, same brush, little bit of pouncing it. They're moving just fine. I wouldn't call it great, no, but I think I've got some of that moon glow in there. Not sure, or the phthalo blue, but let's try the green. The pigment is moving. It's moving better than the Stabilo. And I would expect if something's going to prove better between those two, this would be it. So I do believe that I just got some of the moon glow up into the flower. But it's fine. This is fine. I am not disappointed. Okay, I am going to show you what I often use. I'll often use a color like this pink, and I will draw in, especially like if I'm doing a face. So I will draw in kind of my guidelines when I'm just maybe not sure. And I mean, this is not even a cartoon, but just to see. And because what I want is then for these lines to be willing to disappear if I go over them with some watercolor. So let's just see what they do. And yep, look, the lips are gone. But I'm doing that on purpose. If I wasn't trying to make it be gone, it wouldn't. I am not getting pilling, but you can see that especially if I'm working not just with water, but with some other pigment on top, my guidelines all but disappear, and I'll be able to kind of lay in some guidelines and then go ahead and be able to have them blend into the picture as a whole. So I don't think this was a very fair test of that, because I really think that was contaminated. Let's try it again. And I've got enough space right here. And I'm just going to try to remember which colors I used, which was this pink. And I used this pink. And then I used some of that terracotta. So let's just see. And I'm going to give this brush a real good rinse and test it out. There is no color in here. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, see? That was just so bluey gray because it was contaminated. This is fine. There's nothing wrong with this paper. For the price, for what I would use it for. Now, over here, this was the most water that I used. Can you see how that bowed up? Again, it's not a bad quality, but it's just something I have to keep in mind. If I'm going to do like maybe make some tags or some bookmarks, and I'm going to do like a galaxy type of thing where you use a lot of water and a lot of pigment. No, I wouldn't do that for this. That's not what it's for. If I was going to be doing a landscape where again, layer upon layer, no, that's not what this is for. I would get pilling. I have a feeling like, for instance, let's take a paper towel. And if I wanted to lift up some clouds, that's something that I commonly do after I put a sky in. And can you see the paper pilling? Let me just see if I can show you. Can you see how that paper right here just lifted right up? See, I can just roll it right off. This paper's not designed for that. It doesn't surprise me. It's something that you need to know. So, would I buy this paper again? It's too soon to tell. I need to test it more. But I certainly think it's worth testing again. I really, really do. I think it's going to be a good paper in my arsenal. So what else would I use this paper for? Acrylics, because the more layers of acrylic you use, the more strength you're giving your paper. Another thing that I noticed from this paper, and I'm going to bring the pad back up. I realize that it's hard for you to see it all, but I think you'll see what I'm trying to show you, is the paper has body. Do you see what I mean? This paper has body. It doesn't just bend right over. Does it have as much body as some of my other watercolor papers? Absolutely not. But it is certainly better than many cardstocks, things that they call cardstock. And I know I could take a sheet of this off. I could attach it to my easel and I could work on it. Now I would back it onto something just like I backed what I just showed you, but it could definitely hold up to some acrylics. I think this could hold up just fine, even better than things like when I'm doing my 12 by 12 paper and then doing a masterboard collage on top. I know this could take gel matte medium. I know it could take a lot of products. So would I recommend it? Depending on what your project is, yes. So again, this is the Amazon Basics. It's the watercolor book, and it is 30 sheets, 11 by 14. It's 140 pound or 300 of the GMS, and it is, at this time, $14.35 for this size, this many pages. Thank you so much for joining me. If you found this helpful or educational, please consider a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel. If you know someone that's in the market for watercolor paper, share this with them. They may find that this Amazon Basics is a real good way to go. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.